And welcome back to Sidelined episode 6 with Jonny and Noah. I am Noah.
And I'm Jonny. In this episode, we will be covering topics around the league, what the football, some injuries, and a couple more segments. We will also be introducing a new member of the team, so stay tuned.
Let's go.
Now jumping into topics around the league, cornerback from the Seattle Seahawks asking for his release and eventually being signed off of waivers by the Bengals. And big trade, Zach Ertz being traded to the Arizona Cardinals for a 5th rounder and cornerback Tay Gowan.
Wow, Trey Flowers and Tay Gowan, both on the move.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. I mean, Zach
Quality
Ertz.
players.
Yeah, Zach Ertz was talking about like what you said, like.
Yeah, Zach Ertz was talking about how upset he's going to be. He said he wanted to retire an Eagle. But they've been in trade talks all summer long, and eventually it just turned out that he's going to be traded to the Cardinals at a perfect timing. Poor timing. Max Williams going down with the really gruesome injury.
Yeah.
But it happens, and they have a great player now.
Yeah. And the next topic that we're going to be talking about is the elephant in the room for the NFL. Washington football team. What's going on? They're being investigated for sexual misconduct in the workplace, and obviously a lot more things because Gruden resigned.
Yeah.
Schefter under fire. I mean, Gruden simply was an unacceptable move for him to be sending those emails, especially on an NFL email, but nonetheless being homophobic, racist, saying all these things. And, you know, some people might defend him saying he was joking or not. You know, it's simply unacceptable to be in a professional and sending like on his professional email to NFL teams
where it's going to be there forever.
And Schefter, he's changing his reports in talks with Bruce Allen. Yeah. He's consulting with Bruce Allen, which is the team president. Basically just saying, can I say this? Can I edit this? And all that stuff. You got to say the report. You got to be an honest reporter. In Rappaport, he looks like he's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, I know.
But those are already 2 people getting exposed just from a simple investigation of the emails of the Washington football team. We don't even know what else is going on because the NFL is trying to hide everything.
They gotta release it.
So one, who's leaking all these emails? And 2,
I know. What
else are we going to have to expect? This all happened in like within 3 days, and it's still recent at the time of this filming. So you know, and now Rich Bisaccia is going to be taking over as head coach for the Raiders. He was special teams coordinator, I believe. So they're Super Bowl bound, basically.
Yep, essentially.
Yeah. So now we're going to be going over some injuries in the league. A couple of big ones. 2 season enders that we can talk about. Max Williams, like you just said. Nasty lower right leg. He's going to be going on season-ending IR. He was a really good tight end for the Cardinals until he went down, and now that's why they have Ertz. As well, there's also Juju Smith-Schuster. He's a big name. You know, all the Juju bees on TikTok would be really disappointed to hear that his season is over with a shoulder injury. When you see it, it looked pretty massive. When he got hit,
you could tell he was really hurting.
I wasn't sure if he'd be season ending, but apparently it is, and he needs surgery for that. Now here are 2 fantasy, big name running backs, but also big names for fantasy. Christian McCaffrey and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, both on IR for at least the next 3 weeks. But those are 2 big names. McCaffrey obviously struggles with a lot of injuries, and Edwards-Helaire has kind of had some, this and that. So those are 2 guys to, keep a lookout. Hopefully it doesn't expand past 3 weeks on the IR, but hopefully we'll get to see them back and, better than ever. So, yeah.
And then you also have the entire Giants offense. Kadarius Toney is questionable to play. He's going to play, but he's questionable with the ankle injury. You have Daniel Jones with a concussion, but is cleared to play. Kenny Golladay out with the hyperextended knee. Don't know how
he's
long
always hurt too. He keeps getting hurt as well.
Saquon obviously with the ankle sprain could be potentially 2 to 4 weeks, but we'll see. He's got that.
That's his second ankle injury too.
Yeah, I know, it's unbelievable. And then you also have fun fact: Joe Thuney, he played with a fractured hand the entire game in Week 5. Just thought that was a fun side note.
Yeah.
Then you also
he's committed.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
But it's a big injury. That's broken
hand. That's really difficult to play with. Then you also have Nicholas Chubb, with a calf injury, out for 1 to 2 weeks. So
came out of nowhere too. I mean, you didn't really hear anything at the end of the game. He just didn't practice all week.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
You also, Christian McCaffrey, like you were saying, was expected to play this week, but just another setback in practice this week, so he'll be out on the IR. But two players that are coming back off the injury list, off the IR. Jerry Jeudy, scheduled to come back off IR within 21 days. Going to start practicing again. Apparently, his recovery went really well off this high ankle sprain. 6 weeks was a long time, but he'll be back soon.
For an ankle sprain, like a really big one, that was pretty bad when you saw it.
It looked really bad.
Yeah.
Then you also have new rookie wide receiver from the Baltimore Ravens, Rashad Bateman, coming back off of that core surgery. So that's a big addition for them.
Yeah, and I'm not even like they really need it because Lamar is simply unbelievable. And actually, bringing us to our next segment, What the Football, Lamar Jackson is our main subject. I mean,
oh yeah,
you know, everyone says not bad for a running back. He's a running back, blah, 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 all the running back things.
He was slinging it,
Monday
dude.
night.
Oh my God.
Here's a good, here's just, this is kind of stat line you don't expect someone who runs a lot, okay?
For a running back.
You know, Lamar, usually a mobile quarterback, more than a mobile quarterback, he just usually runs a lot, broke the record for highest completion percentage in a game with a quarterback throws for over 400 yards and has 40 attempts. He has the highest completion percentage.
That was crazy. He looked so good.
He had 4 touchdown passes in that game as well.
And he was questionable going into that game with a back injury.
And it's not even like those 4 touchdown passes were like, you know, chip shots.
They were,
you know,
they were good throws.
2 of them were past 20 yards.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 were on the 5-yard line, but they were very tight windows. He slung one into Mark Andrews, and then for the win, he slung one into Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. So that is our What the Football. And now this brings us to our next segment.
Our next segment is personal foul. And personal foul this week, obviously we all know what's going on with John Gruden, so we're not going to talk about it that much. It's just a really terrible situation.
Really disappointing to hear because he is a good head coach in this league.
He was, yeah.
But
definitely was.
Character-wise, you know, I don't know. It makes you question some things.
Yeah, I know.
And for answering the call, this is a segment where all these players that are either being criticized fantasy-wise, character-wise, or just as a player in general, they answered the call, basically. They had a really great performance this week, and hopefully they can continue doing that. So for our first one would be who?
Starting off, we have Mark Andrews coming off of a fantastic game in fantasy
career highs
football, setting all career highs with receptions, yards, and touchdowns. Over 100 yards receiving, and a pair of touchdowns.
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah, and actually another thing is he also had a career high in 2-point.
Right about that.
Yeah, because he had 2. Of course, that's a little small thing. But our next guy would be Robert Woods. Everyone's talking about him because Cooper Kupp's stepping up. He looks like a superstar receiver. Robert Woods kind of looks like he's just going to become that role player guy. No. Over 100 yards for him. He's been doing this a couple times this season too, so it's not like this is the only time. But he's been criticized as of late recently, and he showed up to play. So, you know, he's a good one. And our next one on the list is another tight end.
Next player who answered the call this week, we have David Njoku. Had a really good game. A player who's been criticized pretty much his entire career, putting up 149 yards and a touchdown. Just looked really solid this week. Yeah,
he looks like he's finally getting those that tight end 1 respect that he finally deserves.
I know.
Our next one is another tight end 1, also top 5 pick in the draft this year, and he's getting a lot of hate because, you know, he's been underused.
Even from us too.
But yeah, I mean a little bit, but it's also not his fault entirely.
No.
But now he's getting targets. He also played a young, I should say, Jets secondary.
Yeah.
And Kyle Pitts in London, he went off for 119 yards and a touchdown. He got a lot of targets, a lot of receptions. Yeah. He just looked really good. He looked unstoppable, and that's exactly why the Falcons drafted him, and he definitely answered the call.
Oh, yeah.
This is Alex's overreactions. All right, these are my 3 hot takes for this week. Be ready. Number 1, Dak Prescott, top 3 MVP candidate. Now, I know it sounds crazy that a New York Giants fan who's wearing a Saquon Barkley jersey is actually saying a Dallas Cowboy should be in the MVP conversation, but believe it or not, he's been that good with this many obstacles around him. Last year, he had one of the most devastating injuries anybody has ever seen with a terrible broken ankle, who honestly, we all thought his career was probably going to be over. Now he's come back, even with a terrible shoulder on his throwing arm, and he's been incredible. He's tied for 3rd in the league in passing touchdowns with, sure, he's only 10th in passing yards per game. That just proves how efficient he is under this offense, with even Mike McCarthy as a head coach, which, by the way, not good. Therefore, Dak Prescott deserves to be in the conversation. Number 2, this may sound crazy because it's been forever that this guy's been the top head coach, but is it time to put Belichick out of that equation and maybe time for him to retire? I know, it sounds nuts and blasphemous that this could even be a conversation to happen. But let's discuss this year his mistakes. His defense is simply not amazing anymore, which is surprising because that's what he's built his dynasty on. He traded Stephon Gilmore for a 2023 6th round pick? It makes no sense. Sure, they needed to cut salary, but that was obviously not the right move. The offense isn't really looking in sync either, and it's very obvious it does not look like they're going to be near any playoff contention in the AFC. It is imperative that this needs to be solved sooner rather than later. And number 3, if those two were nuts, this one's going to be the craziest one out of all of them. Sure, the Browns and the Ravens are in the AFC North, but it is time for the Cincinnati Bengals to take the crown back. Yes, I am saying this despite having Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb, and Baker Mayfield in this division. But there are more problems with the Ravens and the Browns than we like to think. Baker Mayfield has not been that great. He hasn't had many chemistry with Odell Beckham Jr. Jarvis is coming back in, but there's still going to be a lot of receiving problems. And there's also, they give up a lot of points on defense. The Baltimore Ravens, great offensively, but the defense has been inconsistent. The Cincinnati Bengals, however, have averaged less than 20 points per game allowed on defense, which is incredible considering not that much amazing talent despite Jesse Bates. And the offense is dynamic. You got second-year quarterback Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase with that incredible connection. Joe Mixon's looking back to his former self despite playing through injuries. And it looks like they somehow shockingly built their offensive line back without even drafting one. These are my 3 hot takes. If you like them or not, they're out there. Feel free to comment.
Now for this week's position rankings, we're going to talk about wide receivers. Who do you have in your top 5?
In my top 5, I'm going to start off with number 1. It's a pretty clear and obvious choice, Davante Adams. He had an insane performance last week with over 200 yards and a touchdown. He gets a bunch of targets. Of course, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Top 10 all time in Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
But he just simply, he makes the plays.
Yeah.
So, you can't really debate it. He puts up the stats. He has the skill. He did it last year. So, I simply can't see anyone else being in the top spot right now.
That makes sense. I get it.
Yeah, what about you?
Then for my number 1, I also have Davante Adams.
Of course.
He is just the number 1 guy. He's in a whole other tier compared to the other receivers.
Yeah.
You know he's going to perform week in and week out.
Yeah. And for my number 2 guy, he might be approaching that if he got the targets.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I still have DeAndre Hopkins at number 2. He's just capability, skill-wise. If he just got the targets that he deserves, of course, I understand.
It is all there.
It's a loaded offense.
Yeah.
He has not looked bad when he gets the targets. He makes the catches.
It is just a really busy offense.
But
so
if you roll highlights, last game when they were wearing the black jerseys, he made an insane catch just by the sideline, and I would have him at number 2. He would be similar to Davante Adams if he got as many targets, but Davante Adams, like we said, is in a whole different tier. What about you for number 2?
My number 2 might be a surprise. I have Stephon Diggs. A player who has really helped his quarterback elevate his game. Just has a gigantic catch radius and just has looked phenomenal in his 2 seasons in Buffalo. This season continuing that dominant performance, leading his team to 4-0 or 5-0.
No, 4-1.
Sorry, 4-1. I apologize. But he just looks so good, and there's nothing stopping him.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I actually don't have him in my top 5.
Yeah.
But receiver is crazy. It's just like quarterback. I feel like 6 guys can be argued to be in the top 3 spots.
I get that.
For receiver, quarterback, and sometimes even running back. But for my number 3, I have the obvious pick. He's a versatile weapon.
Versatile weapon.
Tyreek Hill, yeah. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. I mean, he just recently had a big game. Not against the Bills. It was kind of a quiet game for everyone there. But you can't really stop the guy. He's the cheetah.
Yeah.
So I would have him at 3, just simply because of his speed alone, and his athleticism is crazy. And he can make big catches if you need him to.
Oh yeah.
And who do you have at 3?
My number 3 is Cooper Kupp.
Good pick.
Kind of solidifying himself as that number 1 receiver in LA. Just having a unreal season with Matthew Stafford. They clearly have that alpha connection between the two of them, rather than with Robert Woods. And he just took a gigantic step this season. So he's my number 3 guy.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, he's insane. And I actually have him at number 4, Cooper Kupp. He just gets open.
He does.
He's not bad. I mean, and when he stays healthy, this is the capability that he has.
Yeah.
He can play really well. And with Matt Stafford, Jared Goff, of course, is really great, but Matt Stafford has a longer arm, which can extend the range of routes that Cooper Kupp runs. And Cooper Kupp's not that slow.
He's
So,
not.
once he gets open, once he gets that speed going, and if he stays healthy, he can easily be a top 5 receiver, and we both have him 3 and 4. So who's your 4th, though?
My number 4 is Tyreek Hill.
Oh, a little
Obviously,
switcheroo, yeah.
Exactly. We know how good Tyreek Hill is. There's nothing much to say about him. He is a phenomenal player, but he has just been kind of pushed to the side compared to these other receivers who have stepped up their game to a whole other level.
That's true. I would agree with that. And actually, now, finally, to wrap up my list, I have number 5. This is not really a surprising pick due to his performance the past few weeks. I mean, throughout the entire season, Mike Williams really stepped up. The former Clemson standout. Some people thought he was just a product of Deshaun Watson and Clemson's system. No. One of the top picks.
Awesome.
One of the top picks in his draft. He's really having a great coming out season.
Yeah.
And he's
A1 connection.
He's breaking out. He had 2 touchdowns last week. He's had 2 touchdowns in a game before.
Yeah.
He's had over 100 receiving yards. He's easily a top 5 receiver.
Oh, without a doubt.
And he kind of reminds me of, he kind of gives me that Devontae Adams Hopkins feeling, you know? Good route runner. They can get open. They're tall. They're big, so they can make the big catches. So I would put Mike Williams at number 5 to wrap up my list.
Interesting. Mine is kind of a surprise. I have like
another
5,
surprise.
I have a 5A and a 5B. Kind of can be interchanged, but I have Deebo Samuel.
He's been really good, just like Mike Williams. He's
Just like Mike Williams
breaking
having a breakout season. He's getting all those targets and over Brandon Ayuk, which was a surprise.
Yeah,
Everyone
Brandon
thought
Ayuk
was going to have this kind of season, but it's Deebo Samuel, and he looks unstoppable. You can run with him, you can pass him the ball. He just looks really great.
Yeah. And who's your 5B?
My 5B, I have Justin Jefferson. Come on.
He plays well. Yeah. I would agree. I mean, I think Mike Williams has outplayed those 2 guys, but of course, like we said, there's a lot of guys that you could switch in and out because there's so many good players right now, and it's a lot of players. Not a lot of players taking a step back. A lot of players taking a huge step forward to join these people. So Deebo Samuel, Justin Jefferson, Mike Williams, Cooper Kupp, all those people joined these guys. I mean, of course, Stephon Diggs. You got to give respects to him. So that's our list, and so yeah, now we're gonna be moving on to who our MVP is through week 5, heading into week 6. Who's your guy?
My leading MVP candidate for leading into week 6, I have, with no surprise, Kyler Murray. Took that gigantic leap in this season into his, I believe, 3rd season.
Yeah.
Just looks phenomenal and is leading his team to a beautiful record. The offense looks fantastic. Everyone is taking a gigantic step, and Kyler Murray included, leading the charge. So I think he is totally deserving of an MVP as of right now. I
mean, they're undefeated. What are you gonna do? You gonna say a different MVP?
No.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Tom Brady. He's what? 41 or is he 44?
44.
44. He's 44.
Old as dirt.
I mean, he's crazy. I don't know. I know Kyler Murray's having a great season, but this dude's 44 years old doing these things.
No, I get it.
He's the all-time leading passing yards. He's the all-time passing yards leader now, thanks to his performance in New England. It wasn't the greatest performance, but he also, for the first time ever, he threw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns against Miami, and that's not even the best part. Well, actually, that was the first time in his career he's ever done that.
Yep.
That's already a great performance, but he's also in this season, for the first time ever, thrown for an 80% completion percentage in a 400-yard game.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
That is
very, very
mega
impressive.
rare.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not even just talking about for an old quarterback. I'm talking in general.
For any quarterback.
He's had an amazing performance. And I understand the weapons thing, but we can make the same argument for Kyler Murray.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
he has-
I'm not
he has
saying
it all.
don't take them down because they have good weapons. This just shows you how good they can be.
Oh yeah.
Brady's 44 years old doing this stuff. I think he can clearly be the MVP this year. I mean, he's had a couple of more than like 3 or 4 3-touchdown games. He leads the league in passing. He's on pace to break Peyton Manning's passing yards record.
Really? Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Even with the, if you take away the 18th game, he's on pace to do it.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, so I don't know. Kyler and Brady, those are our picks. Of course, you can talk about Josh Allen, talk about Herbert too.
Herbert was my number 2. So
yeah, and then a wild card pick, Alex said that Dak Prescott would be maybe in the conversation. So you could talk about all these quarterbacks. You could even go the running back, receiver, maybe even defense. I don't know. But those 2 guys are our picks for this week. And finally, we'll be heading into the game plan.
The game plan. In the game plan, we're going to talk about this week's game of the week. Who do you have?
I have the Cardinals versus Browns. We just talked about Kyler. It's an elite offense and a pretty darn good defense.
Dude,
I mean,
defense
they're really coming into their own. I mean, so versus the Browns, of course, Nick Chubb is out this week, but they still have Kareem Hunt, so it's still a superstar-powered offense. Jarvis Landry might be returning soon. I don't think it's tomorrow, but you know, Odell Beckham, Baker Mayfield, and Njoku, who just had a pretty good game, and Kareem Hunt with a superstar defense as well. I mean, it's just the battle. It's a clash, you know, and I can't wait to see what the Cardinals will do. Maybe they'll remain undefeated. Maybe Baker will pull off the upset. Baker is known to play well after receiving a lot of hate.
Yeah, I know. Right?
So it should be a good game. And actually, I picked Browns versus Chargers last week, so why not go with this one?
Yeah, with the Browns, you know, Kareem Hunt can be a starting running back on another team.
Oh, easily, yeah.
So he is definitely a guy to watch for this week. He had a great performance last week. Shameless plug. Go watch our episode of For Fantasy's Sake. We told you to start Kareem Hunt for this week.
Yep, that was my start pick. Yep.
But moving forward into my game of the week, I have the Ravens versus the Chargers. Both fantastic quarterbacks who can both be in the MVP race.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Lamar. Yeah.
Lamar Jackson looking great, coming off a fantastic performance, and Justin Herbert coming off a great performance. 2 defenses which are playing well. I would say the Chargers defense has a little bit more over them.
Yeah, young and developing, you could say, but they're still playing great.
No, yeah, I just think it's going to be a fantastic offensive game. I don't think it'll be very high scoring, but it's going to be okay. I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, pretty much. And that about wraps up episode 6 of Sidelined with Jonny and Noah. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and follow the Twitter, TikTok, and anything down below on our link tree.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for watching.